And we got, yeah, the video looks good, image looks good. Cool. How are you doing, man?
Awesome, awesome.
So I want to go ahead and let's talk about. We got only a few minutes on this segment here with you, but I wanted to talk about the story you sent me earlier in the week. Can you go ahead and break that down for us?
Yeah, basically, it looks like the whoever the leaders are in various Native American tribes in Washington, specifically, I believe the name of them was the Yakama tribe. They are trying to prevent marijuana from being legalized on their reservations. And I thought that was just extremely crazy and ironic considering that traditionally we know that many Native American tribes used that plant and many other plants, for uh, religious purposes and also, for medicinal purposes. So it seems that the tribe leaders are using the same kind of drugs are bad rhetoric that you see from mainstream American politicians. So I've seen a lot of stories like this recently where it seems that I mean these officials are obviously corrupt and their loyalties is not to the people that they're representing, which shouldn't surprise us because this is just another microcosm of government.
Yeah. So did they give a reason to why they didn't want marijuana in their land?
Because they think that it'll be bad for their community, because alcohol was bad for their community, which especially people from a Native American background should understand the difference between the two, and that they're not even really comparable
You know
when you're
what?
talking about their impact.
One thing I do want to add, man, is that from my experience and even just this past year, getting to go visit Chief Gray Eagle in Oklahoma, and I've shared that experience with you, and getting to be a part of, I guess, what you could call a traditional Native American ceremony, where it's somebody who is in their 50s and has in some ways lost connection with their Native American past, but is trying to bring it back and reconnect with those roots. And in that, there are even some people who would probably eat food that us as activists would be like, whoa, why are you doing that? Why would you support these corporations, or why would you support this and that? And I've been at different indigenous ceremonies where it was like they were sitting there eating Frito Lays and stuff like that, and me and other people, and even a woman who had come up from I believe Peru, who came up there to talk to them about just bringing people together to fight to help resist indigenous struggles around the world. She sat there and through a translator called everybody out like, why are you eating their food and their Doritos and this and that? That's their poison, and you're empowering them. And so my point is that even though someone is I guess in the Native American culture or not, I don't think that necessarily excludes them from being bought over by propaganda such as marijuana is more dangerous than alcohol and stuff like that. Unfortunately, a lot of them have, and we find this in all cultures today, that a lot of people have absorbed this mainstream created culture and have lost touch with their own.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think especially with these leaders of these tribes, there is definitely a lot of financial and political interests. I'm sure that they get a lot of favors from the politicians that they're connected to. And I'm sure that they have complete and total responsibility and control of all of the funds that come into these reservations. And they're basically like, from what I understand, like on the subsistence of the government in many cases. So that it makes these positions extremely susceptible for corruption.
Yeah, you're right. There definitely is a large portion of the Native American community that has, because of the work of the United States federal government, that basically destroyed their old culture and then got them all dependent on it. In a lot of ways, turned them alcoholics or just got them dependent on, the welfare state through the reservations and such like that. So there's a lot of there's a lot of negativity on those reservations and in the culture as well. So it's unfortunate, but I'm glad to see that there are some movements of indigenous struggles around the world that actually are resisting. And I wanted to get your opinion and talk to you a little bit about this for the next few minutes, man. Did you see the story about Native American resistance to the Keystone XL pipeline just this past week?
Refresh my memory of which specific part you're talking about.
Well, basically, several different Native American organizations, including the Oglala Sioux, released a joint statement stating that they're now calling on all tribes to peacefully resist and start, blocking the pipeline because it's crunch time now. Where the State Department has just released the report, basically saying there's no environmental hazards, and by the summertime, Obama should have made his decision whether or not they're going to allow the northern leg of the Keystone XL pipeline to cross into the Canadian border into Indigenous lands in Alberta, Canada, and across the United States. So now that they realize this is sort of like do or die time, they're calling on others in the country to resist.
I think that it's definitely necessary because it is getting down to that time, and it's already been destroying area. I mean, even the fact that they're digging it up and using eminent domain to throw people off their property, the pipelines are rupturing all over the place, and it's obviously going to be a complete disaster. So I think that I'm really not surprised that this is coming together in this way, and I'm not really sure how this is going to play out because it's going to be really difficult for the media uh, to handle, I believe, and how are we going to be seeing police tear gas and Native Americans on the news and stuff like that, or on YouTube? Probably not on the news, but maybe on YouTube. So that is going to create a interesting um, kind of dynamic in the discussion about this.
Yeah, definitely, man. You're right about that. Now, I want to tell you one more example of resistance, and then ask you a question about this. So this has to do with Munduruku people in Brazil, and I believe we've talked about this before because this has been an ongoing struggle for years and years now. But last year they made headlines for releasing a statement saying that they were going to put their lives on the line, that they were willing to fight to the death to stop these mines that were coming through their lands. There's tons of hydroelectric dams and gold mines in Brazil and South America where and they have to constantly fight off these corporations. And the corporations, of course, are working with the state, with the police, and things like that. So it's a similar situation as what we're seeing here in America with the Keystone XL pipeline, but over there the indigenous have almost less rights as far as the state is concerned. They sort of push them off. They're basically the same way that they're treating Native Americans over here, but in some cases much worse. So the Munduruku released a statement earlier in the week saying that this is our land, we will protect our land, we will protect our rivers, we will protect our forests, and we'll do this to our death. This is our word.
Um, wow, man, I did not know I knew that they were apparently taking over equipment and stuff like that, but I didn't hear about that statement. And uh, um, again, I'm not surprised that it's getting to that point there. And I think that they have every right to do what they're doing because that is their property and it was taken from them. And, the way that this is being put out in the mainstream media is that they're damaging other property or that they're somehow seizing other property, and really it's their property. So they have every right to do what they're doing, and I think it's insane what these corporations have been doing in these countries, for probably centuries, I'd say.
Yeah, yeah, much longer. So the statement was released on Friday, January 31st, and it reads, "This is the first step. We are going to defend our territory, our river, our forest, our riches, and our people until the end. This is our word." Do you think this hints at, not only indigenous resistance, but I would hope that it that there is a growing movement of indigenous resistance. And I will say that within the sort of spiritual community, every time I've been to a Native American, or whether it's with the I Don't Know More grandmothers, and it's several different, coming from several different tribes or different representatives who will meet together at these sort of conferences trying to find common ground, which is what we all need to be doing. There's this talk of of prophecy, of awakenings, and like the Hopi prophecy and things like that, but there's also just a realistic awareness that people are waking up, and they're looking for what some people call the children of the rainbow, or just basically the people that come back and recognize life in all sizes, shapes, and forms, and then come together and change things. So this in a lot of ways is a fulfilling prophecy of what many indigenous groups think is going to happen, which is that eventually the people will like fight back against this and reclaim the earth.
Yeah, and I've been watching those prophecies as well for a couple of years since I discovered them, and I think that there's a lot of truth to it, or at least I hope that there's a lot of truth to it. And looking at things from kind of our perspective and the work that we do and seeing this kind of happen every day, it does seem like it is going in that direction.
Yeah, yep, it definitely is, man. Well, I think we've got just about another minute or so with you, so please let everybody know where they can find your work and what they can do to get involved with you, because you do a lot of good things. And I've been mentioning our book, man. It's 2014. It's time for us to get on our book. We've been slipping, but I know I've got tons of essay ideas that I'm working on, so I hope we can come together on them.
Yeah, absolutely. I think now that we have kind of a plan and a schedule with the conscious resistance, we could use this as a little bit of a motivation to get them essays done and maybe even release some of them to the public prior before we give them a full edit for the book. But yeah, you're definitely right. We need to get on that.
Yeah, man.
And
I'm looking
oh,
forward to
go
it,
ahead.
brother. I would say I'm looking forward
Yeah.
to it. We've got a lot. We've talked about, for those who like don't know, we've been working together for about 2 years now, or well, I guess yeah, just over a year and a half, and writing essays separately. But we're gonna put them all together and compile them in a book. And we're definitely looking for and help and influence. So if you've seen other ways that anarchy connects to spiritual teachings, please bring them to our attention.
Yeah, no, it's a very exciting project, and I'm looking forward to getting deeper into it. And if people are looking for some more information about me, I am very active on Facebook, unfortunately, until there's another social network. And you can find me at facebook.com/JGVibes. I have some free books out at AOTMR.com. And every day I post an article or two for intellihub.com.
Awesome, man. Well, I'll talk to you soon, brother. Take it easy.
All right, later.
That was John Good Vibes, J